Alright, so we're talking about monogamy, yeah.
Oh no, I had
Not
such a
this
problem with
shit.
this. Me and Vaush can fight about it.
Wait,
Oh,
okay.
unless you don't want
monogamy
to.
is like selfish?
I don't-
No. Do you know what my take is?
No, I
Yeah,
don't. That's what
you.
I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Alright, this might be a
I
little
argued
too quick.
that while people should be free to choose fairly whether they want to be monogamous or non-monogamous, we should recognize that the principle behind monogamy, which is the idea that there should be some kind of sexual
subtitles.
exclusivity, but not
Yeah, sexual exclusivity.
exclusivity around all the other things people do with each other, like having friends or whatever else, that is an arbitrary line that we've produced as a product of insecurity. But the follow-up to that is that everyone experiences insecurity, whether you're monogamous or non-monogamous. It's just one of those things that changes and mitigates our behavior. Same as fear. Why do people behave more cautiously when they're near the side of a road or when they're driving at high speeds? Fear causes us to do it. But that doesn't mean that it's bad or wrong. We should recognize, though, that it is ultimately a rationale which is derivative of like base social instincts that we have. So with regards to monogamy, I do think it derives often from insecurity. Why do you want that exclusivity? You're insecure about your partner liking other people more, or you feel entitled to their body. But those are feelings we all have, and I think it's
Frankly, I think he's right. I think he just hit the nail on the head. It's just insecurity. It's just, I am afraid I'm going to lose you. I don't know, or somebody's afraid that they're going to lose somebody, and I think that it's a
legit choice that people should be free to enjoy if they think that's best for them. I just want people to be forthcoming about that info because, like, there are frat dudes or whatever who are like, yeah, I don't want my girl talking to any other guys, like talking to, and you'll be like, that sounds pretty insecure, and they'll be like, no, I just don't think the girl should be doing that when they're in a relationship.
He's absolutely right.
And it's like, okay,
I don't agree with Vaush on everything, but I have to say he is right basically 90 to 95% of the time, because he's just consistent and he thinks things through. Like, all you gotta do is just do that. If you could do that, you could be like him. And people just hate him because he tells the truth. And
like,
he's
you have
direct.
to know that's a decision born in insecurity, right? Not as like more insecurity than the standard monogamy, but like fundamentally it comes from the same basic feelings. That frat dude is feeling the same thing.
You don't have to agree with him on everything, but it is pretty. People who don't like Vaush are just stupid. They just never gave him a chance, to be honest. They've been misled with some stupid little some clip that was out of context, or some take that he had in the past that wasn't so great, but that he's probably is better now, or they just didn't get the context.
That monogamous people feel when they think about their partners sleeping with other people.
I mean, the thing is with sex, right, is I found that I was in a committed relationship for like 3 years, and then we broke up, right? And so after that, I
feel like I might agree with Dylan too, although I'm not sure what
most people my age would do, and I start sleeping around, and it was like nice sexually, but afterwards it would not feel too good. It wasn't nice to have sex with somebody and then they just stand up and then they just leave your apartment and you don't talk about it afterwards.
Okay, well, that's weird. I mean, that sounds like you're. I mean, if that sounds like you're hanging out with a sex worker or a very explicit one-night stand. I mean, you're not even going to cuddle afterwards? That seems a little awkward.
There's nothing there. It felt very empty.
Maybe I don't agree, actually.
And then once I developed another relationship with my current partner, right?
Really gonna
then that feeling that I had with sexual intercourse before was back.
Who's this
and
guy?
I mean, sex has like certain chemical compounds that make you like grow like pretty attached to people, right? So I mean, it isn't just a product of insecurity.
Hold on. I'm taking this seriously, so hold on, because these are non sequiturs. For the first one, like, playing skee ball with people is fun, but if a person just played skee ball with me and then after we were done they just like left, I would think like, oh, that was a pretty hollow experience.
Yes,
what you're talking about there is the general desire to do intimate things with people that you have connections to.
There's nothing
That's
wrong with
universal.
cuddling.
Yeah, but like exchanging fucking fluids and fucking is the same as skee ball?
Hold on, wait. Let's not resort to like
balling maybe.
Let's not resort to arguments from intuition here. Okay. So what you're talking about is things are made better when you have close feelings to the people that you're doing them with, which I will agree with generally, whether it comes to sex or other things. But I don't think that speaks to my point, which is that insecurity is the driving social regulator that influences our feelings on this.
Okay.
This isn't like
Can I ask a question, Vaush? Wait, sorry. I want to ask you, Vaush.
Okay, let's say,
do you think that insecurity
I'm the only one besides I actually have good opinions on these things, but I'm not famous enough, or I'm too left-wing. Like, I would talk to Vaush, but like he won't have me because I'm too left-wing. I think that's stupid. That's one of the takes I disagree with. I think you should talk to everybody. Should be like what's his Hassan. I think he talks to pretty much everybody.
Or understandable or serves a purpose in some way.
100%, yes, absolutely I do.
Okay, so then what's the problem with it?
I don't know. Again, like, biologically.
Wait, what's the question?
100%, yes, absolutely.
Justified?
Wait.
Hey, do you think that insecurity
isn't like
See,
a
I've
moral-
heard
Can I ask you a question,
before.
Vosh? Wait,
Oh, sorry.
sorry. I want to ask you, Vosh. Okay, let's say, do you think that insecurity is justified or understandable or serves a purpose in some way?
Oh, okay. So is the insecurity of not wanting your BFGF or non-binary partner to your partner, let's just say, to have to talk to other people or to sleep with other people? No. I think that that's stupid. I think that it should really, like, why are you dating that person if you think they're gonna leave you? I don't understand. And also, I think non-monogamy is fine as long as it's consenting. And both partners have a similar availability to it.
100%, yes, absolutely, I do.
Okay, so then what's the problem with it?
Is it valid? Which I guess is what his question is. It can be valid. I don't know if I agree with him 100% that it's valid, but I certainly think that it can be valid. I just don't think that it's always valid, and I think honestly, most of the time it's not, to be honest, because I know people that are friends or boyfriend and girlfriend that in the past have they cheat on each other every day and they would always yell at each other about it. It's like, just be in an open relationship at that point. Like, come on, why does it matter?
I don't know. Again,
just,
biologically, the reason why we are more cautious in situations that we're
yeah, it's like, oh, tradition. Everybody. So this is the way things work.
a misstep could lead to our death is fear. People who don't experience fear, like people who have parts of their brain that don't, like people who have that condition, and there have been studies on this.
But I think very little. I would disagree with Vaush even to the point where that I think that even less fear than he would argue for.
Behave
But then
recklessly.
again, he's not really thought about this. I've definitely probably thought about this more than he has.
in situations where we would be more cautious. So fear makes us
I think
cautious, and
everyone's
caution
against
can be
him
a good
too,
thing.
which is unfortunate.
Normally, when we say, "Hey, you're being fearful, you're a coward," it's an insult. But in reality, fear is a healthy mechanism that regulates our behavior.
Fight
The
or
real
flight
insult
shit.
is right. You're being too fearful. That's the real insult. I don't think a person is being too insecure if they're monogamous, but I still think it's rooted in insecurity, which is something we should be.
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be monogamous, and I think that that's pretty standard. That is typical. I think it is typical to want to be monogamous, but I think that I think monogamy doesn't just have to mean sexual monogamy. I think that you can be romantically monogamous without being sexually monogamous. True. I think that, obviously, sexual, like doing sexual activities with people can breed more close bonding feelings. But as our friend Dylan here said, that yeah, he knows plenty of people that can just bang and boot. Just it's not necessary. It's not required to do that. However, it's perfectly possible to I mean, like, if you're stuck with the same person for so long, like think about how many people like cheat in their relationships and then they become better. Like they treat their partner better and they realize how much they love their partner. They just needed a little bit of a little bit of variety. There's nothing wrong with occasional variety, I think. I mean, like, if I was dating somebody and they were to cheat on me after we've been dating for a while, like if they were to sleep with somebody else and we had already consented to this being okay, like I was on a similar level and things like that, it depends. But they okay, if two people are together but they can sleep with anybody and they're still together, obviously that can happen, and so obviously that means that there's more than just sex. Sex isn't the only thing that brings a relationship together, and people can stay together and then drift apart. That happens too. We need to normalize that in society.
Be aware of, because it can make us more introspective.
Some people think that
it's just a bunch of religious Christian hokey pokey that's values that have forced themselves upon us that mean we need to stay monogamous forever and get married as soon as possible. Like love, you can be in love with more than one person throughout your life. You can be in love with somebody and then fall out of love with them. You can want to marry and spend the rest of your life with somebody and be absolutely true in that, and then later on those feelings can fade. It is possible. But it can also last a long time.
What is it, polyamory?
Even a lifetime, which is great. But typically, I don't think that's normal. I think non-monogamy is part of humanity. That's why we don't, penguins couple for life. Humans don't do that, and I think there's a reason for that.
Or what is it, like,
Yeah, I think so.
And honestly, it's more to do with our psychology. Like grow as people, and as people grow, they change, and as they change, they can fall in or out of love with each other, and they can re-fall in love with each other later on, or they can want to move on. I've had plenty of mutual breakups. It's in fact, most of my breakups are mutual because I develop such a strong center, like such a strong communication base that we have to, from the start, tell how we're feeling. Like, don't worry about, don't try to hide your feelings. Let them be honest. If you are attracted to somebody else, if you're no longer interested, if you think things are going wrong, let that be known. Do not hide that. Your partner is not your therapist. They're your partner. You should have a separate therapist. However, you have to be honest. Honesty is the best policy, and you can be together and non-monogamous.
Cool.
And
What's the opposite of
so
whatever?
I think
So
yeah,
some
you
people
gotta-
think that is insecurity. I've heard before. It's like, why get attached to someone if they're just gonna leave? Like, why even bother?
Oh,
It's
like
just like,
fear
don't even
commitment?
try.
Yeah,
Like
can be
that's a
insecurity
sort
too.
of
I think the
fear
thing-
too.
I think the thing
But
is
that's
you
not
can't
the right
generalize,
response.
right? Like there's definitely people who are they don't have any insecurity. They're just they just know that they can get it when they want and they want to have fun and shit. Like they might be, have
yeah.
status or whatever the case
Typically
may be. And then there's-
male, unfortunately. There are I mean that's basically the that is the standard, the default of a female life. It's typically cis, but more and more as time goes on, female all is that, they're the attractive ones, and then the male sort of wants to, and again, this is of course being heteronormative. I'm using male and female, but I don't actually mean like human male and female. I'm being sort of I'm using polarity of groups of energies and desires. I'm being a little bit, but it's true to say that most girls can pretty much get it, quote unquote, whenever they want, because there's almost always a guy that would be willing to do it. So, and then there's plenty of guys who have reached a certain status or that they can do that too, and then they have no interest in monogamy. But typically those people who are more like the guys who are more interested in numbers than relationships, they are lonely and insecure themselves. That's not what I'm talking about. Love is the best. You want to have I think non-monogamy actually maximizes romance and love, because like I said, if you have two people who can have sex with anybody whenever they want, I think that's the best way to find your best romantic partner, because then the barrier is not just who I'm sleeping with, it's somebody that I actually enjoy hanging out with, like your actual romantic partner, and that could even be more than one person. Polyamory is relationship partnerships that are more than two people. Now, I would be interested in a polyamorous relationship, but I don't think I could have one. Obviously, I mean, since I've yet to experience this, I would have like a fantasy of being the only guy in a 2-girl relationship, but I don't think I could realistically handle that, because I know myself that I would be I would feel like I'm always choosing one over the other. However, if I was in a relationship with another guy, I wouldn't be sexually attracted to him, but if I was romantically interested in him, because, unfortunately I'm straight, I wish I was bi, but I'm not. I've tried, but I'm not. I think that if I was in a polyamorous relationship with multiple women and more than one male, that would be great. I think that would be fine. And if we all loved each other, I think that would be perfectly acceptable, and that's how the future will probably be.
There's other people who are insecure, and whether they're monogamous or polygamous, that either way, that insecurity is the driving factor behind it. But personally, I think that like a lot of monogamy comes down to...
this whole monogamous debate is entirely based on insecurity. I think we need to break out of the shell of typically monogamous relationships, just like we need to break out of the shell of typically cis and heteronormative behavior as well. I think we need to de-genderize, gender neutral as much as possible, and to de-heteroize and de-monogamize as much as possible, so that the typically stuff, the typical people can be there, but so can all variations of everything in between, and we can constantly come up with infinite new ones.
To like appreciating
and be accepted and open-minded to them as well. But be honest. The key is honesty. You have to be honest with yourself and open. And people, unfortunately, just as developed from here, the like 3 out of 4 people here are all I've seen some of this video before. I was acting like I wasn't earlier, but I've seen a little bit of it already. These people are all against him. I originally thought I thought Dylan would at least be somewhat on his side with Vaush, but no, Vaush is the only one defending non-monogamy, and I find that strange, especially in a panel of leftists. That's crazy.
Project that you've built together,
considering all the other like sexuality and freedom that they liberation that they all wish for. I find it odd that that Vaush is the only one here, even considering non-monogamy as a possibility. It seems strange. I mean, I guess Dr. Heem kind of considers it, or they all sort of like think like, I don't care if other people do it, but they just go with their, as Vaush says, their instincts, their intuitive,
the respect for the
feelings based on how they've been programmed by their upbringing, but they haven't actually thought about it themselves. Like, they haven't really given it as much thought as they could.
Memories or the all of the groundwork that you put to build that is kind of like, that to me is the driving factor, not like the insecurity of like,
it's like
I'm gonna be alone.
It's like having a best friend that you just hang out and you do everything together and you like grow together and like stuff like that.
But you don't just hang out with your best friend, you hang out with other friends too. You can do that, and I think that can include sex. Sex can be making love, or sex can be sex. You can hang out and play video games, or you can hang out and play video games with you can watch a movie with your partner, and it's an intimate experience, and you can watch movies with your friends.
You're like romantic. That's another thing, like the romance about it.
Now, you don't have to do it with everybody. Obviously not and it is implicit and should go without saying that this is a safe sexual practice. It's not always intercourse that I'm referring to. I'm referring to, sexual of all kinds, even just, making out occasionally. Why not? Like, it's fun. Go to a party, have some fun, if you're attracted and if it's two consenting and of, appropriately, like, of age people, then yeah, at least 2. That's the whole point, right? But it's more than 2, right? At least 2. Why not? More the merrier. If that's what you're into. If you're not, then you don't have to. But at least give it some thought.
Like the romantic and chemistry stuff like that.
I wish I was bi, but I'm not. I've tried. I'm not. I'm straight, and it's it's kind of a weird thing to be like, I'm unfortunately straight, but like, I want to be. I think non-monogamy is perfectly fine.
Like, well, keep in mind
again, consenting non-monogamy and with romance being something else. And I also believe in polyromanticism, in that you can be in love with more than one person at the same time. However, yes, I think that 2 people, and especially for me in my experience, I can be in love with somebody who is also in love with me, and we could also both occasionally sleep with other people who we find attractive, and maybe even learn some nice techniques from them, There's nothing wrong with a little bit of, experience. I never understood, the concept of wanting people who aren't experienced sexually because they're not very good.
And you can build polyamory together, right? You can have a lifelong partner that is non-monogamous. What you're talking about isn't having a lifelong partner. What you're talking about is limiting the sexual behavior of your partner and expecting them to limit
That's
it from
exactly
you.
what they're talking
So
about.
again, I think the desire to like have friendships or partnerships that grow throughout your whole life is universal. Well, I guess not for aromantic people maybe, but is generally universal. What we're talking about, and by the way, I agree. I think that fear of commitment is
like
also
the
a type of
subtitle
insecurity or
True,
fear that can often be an informative factor in why people like me choose not to be monogamous. I can tell you from personal experience that fear of commitment is absolutely a decision or a factor that goes into decision making.
So, can I ask you a question, Vaush?
Yes.
Like, so let's say that you're in a monogamous relationship with somebody, and somebody else walks up to them and they say something like, "I love you," about another person, right?
So if somebody comes up to your partner and says, "I love you," I mean, that's a little. I think what he means is that
And it's
your
clear
partner
that that
says
is an
they love
indication
you
of
to
some
someone else.
romantic love. Obviously, that
Because,
could
like, what if it's their sister and they say, "I love you," or it's their brother or their family member or a best friend? Like, I say I love you to my female best friend, and we say I love you to each other because we do love each other. There's more than one type of love. I used to have a video on it, but I stupidly deleted it. I'll make it soon. I have a TikTok on it. There are at least 5 types of love. Romantic, familial, and friendship. Because friends are the family that you choose. Self-love, which is one that capitalism and modern society has really broken down. But self-love is important. Treat others the way you want to be treated, but don't forget to treat yourself the same way. Tribal love, which is, when you have, like, something in common, like a band member, like a band that you both like, or a team that you both like. If you see a shirt that you recognize and it's a reference to something, and you see somebody you don't know anything about, you can be like, oh, I like that thing. That's tribal love. And then, of course, universal love, which is realizing that we are all the universe and that we choose love rather than fear. And going on to what he said about fear earlier, but I have other videos about that, or I will in the future.
For a variety of reasons.
Fear
They
being
feel
the
that's, like,
opposite
one,
polarity
this
of love.
I
You
feel
can't
Just
have
some
one without
random
the other. It's
person?
like light and dark. Up and down. If you have up, you have to have down at the same time. So fear and love are the two sides of the same coin, with, of course, a middle section being, no numbness, no feelings whatsoever, non-judgment, which is where it's good to be sometimes too. But to choose love is important.
Yeah, no, anyone. It could be
Okay.
literally. It could be somebody, a close friend or something.
Okay.
There's a certain amount of reactions people are going to have to that indication of some romantic interest, right?
Wait, so I have
somebody saying I
so
love you
I
to
have a
your
monogamous partner, and somebody goes up to them and tells my partner that they love my partner.
Well, yes. Now this is different for everybody, but do you believe
I don't know if that was the best
that
example.
this isn't like just like playing skee ball with friends? This has a very specific romantic implications, right? So this has very specific implications.
Yeah, so somebody is in love with your partner. Again, if I'm with this person and they're my partner and not this other person's partner, ideally, we would have enough security in our relationship that they could hang out alone with this person if they chose to. However, if I was dating somebody and there was someone who was in love with me, or supposedly, thought they were in love with me, or felt that they were in love with me, that was not reciprocated, I don't know if I would want to hang out with them one-on-one, first of all, because they would probably be trying to flirt with me, and it just seems like, this is not going to work. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. However, I mean, they could even sleep together, and then maybe that person would be like, oh, actually, maybe I don't actually, I'm not attracted to you. Maybe that was all they needed. They just needed some attention and stuff. Or maybe they would become a weird creepo person, and in which case, I would help my partner avoid that person because maybe they're not friend. Yeah, no, I think that this is perfectly acceptable. You just have to be secure with yourself and your partner and be honest and talk to each other. Because if you love each other, what's the problem?
For romance and
if you love
feelings
each
for one
other,
another.
there isn't a problem.
Do you think that if someone was to come up and say like, hey, that's something that I believe that only us should share, that type of love and stuff, not we don't like share that with other people, that's rooted in it?
Now, if that's how you feel, that's totally fine. If somebody feels the same way, there's a lot of them out there, you'll be fine. There's nothing weird or wrong. The fact that it's so unfortunate.
Security, even though I think a lot of this is just like basic like human emotions.
I feel so awful for trans people, because this is what it's like being trans all the time, except people are trying to argue your existence to live. And this is just like an annoying pet peeve that people are like, you're non-monogamous? That's weird. Like, oh my god. Poor trans people have to exist and be treated like, it's disgusting. You can't even make a comparison.
This way where they want to have that, like
trans rights.
So are you you're distinguishing between sexual monogamy and romantic monogamy, correct?
I'm gonna make the connection
because those are definitely two very different things. I'm not polyamorous. I'm not sexually non-monogamous.
So I have a question.
I'm not polyamorous yet, but I think that I could try it. Like I said, I would probably like to be in a relationship with some girls and at least one other guy, but I would have to be romantic. It would be difficult. I think it would be difficult to not have a favorite. Obviously, I believe you could love everybody, but I don't know. Could you really love them all equally? I mean, it would certainly be worth a try. But however, polyamory and open relationships are two different things. Polyamory is a throuple or more, is like a relationship group, a partnership that is more than just two people. But an open relationship is at least two people, typically would be two people that are not sexually exclusive, that will occasionally, or whatever their rate is, sleep with other people, which I'm totally
So
fine
do you think?
Wait, I didn't.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'd like to
Go
try
ahead. Go ahead.
polyamory.
I was gonna fly it into like sex for different people means
I'm
different
definitely
things.
more
For
into
some people,
the open
I
relationship
guess
type, provided that once both partners are equally, at the ability to have open relationship stuff. It's obviously typically easier for women than men to find somebody to sleep with, but also it's more typically desirable by men to sleep with more people than women. Typically, this is again, I'm painting with a very broad brush, and I'm aware that I'm painting with a broad brush. I'm not. I am specifically generalizing. There's always room for the opposite and
Even though
intricacies.
I don't know for sure. There are people who for sex, like, it doesn't
But
mean
if
that
two
much.
people are in a relationship, they could be, the same gender or whatever, and therefore equally likely, and attractiveness level equally likely to find other outside their relationship partners to sleep with, and they're open to it. I see no reason why not. I think that would only strengthen their bond because, they're staying together because they love each other. Like if the sexual exclusivity is
For most people,
I
right?
wish I could get on
Mhm.
panels like this. I feel like I feel like it's so easy.
For most people, sex doesn't mean that much.
No,
I-
sorry,
anyone
what
with
you're
a-
about to say. For most
Yeah,
people,
for most
yeah.
people, sex actually like can build you a bond with people. I have once I've been with
Absolutely,
people,
and
which
which is why I think more people should have it. It can build a bond with people. It's a great bonding experience. I think more people should have sex with each other, in a safe and protected way, and also build relationships that are more than just the one person you can have sex with. My God, it's
like
crazy.
a casual sex relationship, and through that, I actually got more and more emotionally attached to them, and that's just like
See, logically, it doesn't even monogamy makes absolutely no sense. It's just our programming that we've been, it's our capitalist Christian values that we've been forced to instill deep within our subconscious that makes us feel this way. But if you actually think about it, it makes no sense, and it actually makes more sense for all relationships to be somewhat open, because then you are only together because you love each other, and you can sleep with
basically
people
chemicals and like chemical
too.
compounds like reacting in your body through
and make more
doing
friends
this.
that way.
And so
get
it's
closer
not.
to
I don't
people.
think it's like an active insecurity for someone to do.
Because
like,
there
I feel
is a
that's
difference between the quote unquote just friends and then the friends who've slept with each other, because it does change your relationship, because now it's much easier to sleep with each other. Because I find our culture to be so prude, it's ridiculous. It's just like, obviously wear a condom, but like you don't have to just have sex. That's not the only thing that you could do. You can also do other like oral and manual, as it were, if we're going to use medical terms. But yeah, there's you can use your hands, you can use your mouth, you can kiss, like you can cuddle. Like goddamn, I don't even you can't. There's no even like consensual cuddling, because we're so atomized as a society because of capitalism and our prudish Christian values that we've completely destroyed our ability to connect with one another. It's crazy.
something that should just be shared between two people who love each other, because sex can unironically make you have those feelings for people, for a lot of people.
Yes, but they're not going to they can unironically build your attraction and comfortability with people, and even romantic interest in people, but only temporarily. And if we were in a society where this was okay, what Dylan's saying, it would be nothing. It would just be a way to get closer to people, like Brave New World, but in a good way. But again, in Brave New World, you're forced to be non-monogamous. You're like not allowed to be like, because I think the point of Brave New World was anti-communist propaganda, and that because what the capitalists want you to believe is that utopia is impossible. There's no way to have a quote-unquote perfect society with no poverty, no unnecessary suffering. Obviously, you cannot have a society without any suffering at all, because you need some suffering in order to build and grow. You need to, create experiences and learn from them and build up your things. But you can also feed and house and educate and provide healthcare to your whole society without turning into a bunch of, black and white or gray drones that are just clones of each other with no emotion. That's just stupid. But you can have an open relationship but still be romantically entwined, and then that will last a long time, and then maybe it won't, maybe it eventually will disappear. I mean, obviously, assuming that not most relationships don't last forever, so but most that do quote unquote last forever or until someone dies, most of them aren't so great by the end anyway, because most of them stay together because of religious reasons. There's really no other need. They don't even like each other. It's sad. It's unfortunate. We've created a society that is undesirable.
This is what I don't
Okay.
get about the thingy though. Oh, sorry, let him answer.
Well, no, I would only make the argument that there are lots of things that not only does that vary significantly, but there are lots of
Yeah.
things that can produce those feelings. For instance, sex workers don't go
Yeah,
about
it's
falling in
funny
love.
that Dylan is bringing up, like, if you have sex with somebody, it can make you, romantically interested in them, when he literally was talking about how he's had partnerships, or he's had sexual experiences where the other person didn't even want to cuddle and just got up and left, which, I'm sorry, that sucks. But that literally just disproves your own point. But yeah, cuddle after you sleep together, guys. Come on, there's nothing. It's fun, we're
Love
people.
with every person they fuck.
Let's
If they
be
did, then
nice.
that
Let's
job would be
enjoy each
incredibly
other's
difficult,
company.
more so than it
Let's
probably
be
already
nice to
is.
each other.
And additionally,
Love, it's good.
there are like spending
It
time
doesn't
with
all
people,
have to be
like long
romantic.
periods of
There's more than one type. You can have the thing about the friendship / family is it doesn't have to be platonic. It's typically platonic, but it can be sexual because you're allowed to have friends with benefits without being romantically interested in each other, because you can have sex without romantic intention. Otherwise, if you couldn't do that, then sex work would not exist, as I believe Vaush would bring up later.
time with people. Going to a concert with a person can be an incredibly formative bonding experience. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that
There's
sex
other
isn't
bonding
unique in its
experiences
ability
besides
to,
sex, yeah.
to make people feel close to one another. I'm
And
only
it's
saying that
also-
ultimately the line we draw for what's acceptable is arbitrary.
Fair.
So for
Yeah,
me,
it's
sex would
completely
be like a
arbitrary.
fairly intimate thing, but like the highest thing would be like other romantic partners, right? So
Yes, exactly. There's a difference between having an open relationship and having a, if you are, so the problem with having an open relationship is that it's possible that your partner may start to have feelings for somebody else, and that's an important possibility. That's something that might happen. Now, that's why you need to be open and honest with each other and realize that your relationship probably won't last forever from the start. However, it's worth trying to maximize the amount of time it can last together. However, just because you want to sleep with somebody else doesn't mean that you're losing attraction to your partner. And in fact, not being able to sleep with somebody else will make you compress and push down that urge to sleep with that other person, and may make you think that you are more attracted to that person than you really are. And maybe, quote unquote, getting that release will make you realize how much you actually still do love your actual partner and are not really in love with that other person and just attracted to them. Or maybe it'll bring up reasons that maybe your relationship is done and it's time to move on for both of you, and you're just staying together because you're used to being together. And this would prevent that situation from happening as much. Or maybe you're just too used to each other and you need to bring that spark back. So having the ability to sleep with other people is a great way to find out if that's what's necessary, and even find out what you need to do to bring that spark back. Like, why did you guys get together in the first place? What did you like about each other's company?
I'm comfortable having a partner who only wants one romantic partner, and I only want one romantic partner myself. And to an extent, I do think that's more
Yes, one romantic partner is not necessarily the same as one sexual partner. You can each be each other's romantic partner without just having sex with each other, which is what Vaush said.
insecurity, because I think everyone feels this way a little bit about friends. Everyone wants a best friend to whom they are the best friend, right? Like you
And
want
stability.
your best friend. Right. You want your best friend to think of you as their best friend. You don't want to have a best friend who might be like, oh, well, you're like my third best friend, but I've got
Yeah,
these
'cause
two
that's
friends and
just
they're my best
awful.
friends or
That
whatever.
sucks.
So stuff like this, I think, these are legitimate
person's
reasons to
not a
feel
very
one
good
way or
best
the
friend.
other. But ultimately, what I'm talking about is insecurity on my part. But I don't think
The
it's
point
bad
is
or
that
wrong.
you
I just
want to be as close to equally feeling the same about each other as possible. And I think that honestly the best way to do that is non-monogamy. I think that monogamy actually makes that more difficult, and it creates more of a power and feeling differential, because it just locks you people together. So if you and your partner are allowed, partner or partners are allowed to, are non-monogamous, then you can find out why you really like each other, which is what I've been saying the whole time.
I
Or
just think
whether or
that's
not you
kind of
actually
where the
even do
feelings
really
come
like
from,
each
you know?
other.
About like having like a family and like kids. Where does that
But
come
assuming
in?
you do,
How do
you
you,
Do
do
where
that
does
not
it-
non-monogamous. You don't have to stop. Like there are
Do
plenty
you think it
of
would be
scenarios there.
confusing for the children?
You can just go do Tinder hookups like out of the house.
Oh, okay, I see.
I'm not talking about polyamory. I mean, just
Okay, well, first of all, no. Everything and nothing is confusing to children. Children are new to the world, and they develop how you want them to develop. I mean, you can have a stable household stability comes from love, and having, food on the table, and and being open and honest, and having love towards them, and them being brought up. But you can bring up children with, a more than just the two parents. I mean, in fact, that's why a lot of people, unfortunately, are forced to stay together for the kids. And it sucks to be I have not had this experience, thankfully, but it is unfortunate to be a kid who grows up in a household with divorced parents. But there's plenty of kids who grow up with step parents who they view as their real parents, because those are the ones that they built the strong and compatible and good bonds with. The point is to build as many good bonds as possible, to create as much love as possible. So it would be arguably better for children to grow up in a society that was non-sexually monogamous, because as Vaush said, you don't need to bring up that you're having an open relationship in front of the kids, but also that, more positive figures in their life, because again, you're coming together because, you try to avoid, you don't want to have sex in front of your kids, obviously. So, you try to keep that part separate, but, whether it's polyamory or just an open relationship, the important thing is to have a good relationship with the kids, and you can, in fact, have a complicated but positive, romantic and sexual relationship with more than one person. Or not. You don't have to. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of options, is that you can choose what you want versus having to go with the one that everyone chooses for you.
Just mean non-monogamy.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Like you're romantically only
if
with
only
one
I was
person.
on this panel, then I could actually properly maybe explain what I'm trying to get at, because maybe I don't fully understand his question.
You sleep around. You both decide it's okay to sleep around.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just keep that hidden from the kid. But yeah, grow up, and then that would strengthen your relationship with each other, because again, you're staying together for love and not just for sex. And so the kid, and you just don't share that with your children, because why would you? That's weird.
But again, like my frustration here wasn't like because I'm trying to.
What happened, anyways? Where did this come from? Can you tell me the origin? Like, what happened? You were venting or something?
Well, I was
I'd like
talking
to
with
talk to
chat
this
while playing
guy,
Diablo
Dr.
like a week ago or something, and people got mad at me. But the reason why the conversation denigrated, like the reason why it got worse, at least
Don't listen to him, Chad. I love you.
Fuck chat.
in my opinion, because it frustrates me that like I think
because
a lot of people.
Vaush is honest and speaks the truth, and people just aren't ready to hear it, which sucks. It's sad. That's literally the origin of it. Is that people like Shoe and Dylan here and most of chat are like, what? You're non-monogamous? That's weird. Even though they're literally like, that's literally just the right's argument about everything the left says is, whoa, that's weird. At varying levels of aggressiveness.
Very unintrospective about where some of their feelings come from. So
precisely.
intuitive rejection of some abstract social principles can be traced to a lot of reactionary thinking. For example, the idea that people are best with their kind, races should be kept within a race. These are things people have very strong intuitive feelings on.
What these people are doing is being reactionary by not even considering non-monogamy as something that they might be open to. Not because they have chosen to be monogamous, but because they have never even considered the idea that non-monogamy might work for the other people, or why other people might be interested in it. Vaush clearly has, because he thinks about stuff like this, and he comes just like myself. We've experienced things, and again, all three of them may come to the conclusion that they are not, that they are all monogamous people. But all these people are also cis, That doesn't mean that we need to argue whether or not trans people exist. Just because they aren't the quote-unquote typical, or, I think typical is the word we should use, because it means the not default, but the, majority, but they still exist. In a large enough group, you will have all kinds of people, and in all of humanity, you will have every kind of person possible, provided that we are allowed to explore our inner and outer realities and worlds.
You can go ask your average racist boomer or whatever. They're not going to have some eloquent answer for you on skull shapes. They'll just say
it'll fall apart quick.
Well, they won't even debate
They're
it. It's just
just-
like, well, that's just how it is, you know.
Quick question: do you
So-
believe
so
monogamy is harmful? Though?
Reactionaryism
Like, in
is
any way?
reactionaryism.
The
It
social
doesn't matter.
expect-
That's just how I feel. That's how I grew up. Why are you even arguing this, you crazy lunatic? It's like, yeah, that's reactionaryism. That's being a reactionary. They're all being reactionary right now.
That monogamy be the default is harmful, but people in monogamous relationships aren't harmful.
Hmm.
Like heterosexuality.
Okay, hang on. Let me ask you a question.
Heterosexuality is not harmful, but the expectation that you have to be heterosexual or you're weird, that's
Yeah.
harmful.
Can I ask you a
But
question?
let me just-
Precisely.
Wait, sorry, I have to ask.
Okay.
Typical stuff is not a problem, but the expectation that everybody is the default / the typical is what becomes harmful, and forcing people who feel outside of the typical, quote unquote, majority, is where harm comes from, and that's what That's what causes reactionary thinking.
I have to. I'm sorry. Do you think? Sorry, Dylan.
Bigotry.
Co-host of the show.
Sir,
I'm from the Washington Post, Mr. Vaush, and I wanted to ask you: do you think that like part of this societal expectation comes from the fact that maybe the vast majority, I would say probably 90% plus of people, link that
It doesn't
romance
matter
and
if it's
sex so
99.9 if there's only one person who feels this way, because guess what? They're valid.
closely that they're unable to like separate them, and so therefore this is just how the society has naturally, progressed.
Yeah, because that is what we're saying, that the majority of people are probably like this, but that doesn't mean that that minority doesn't exist or that they should be repressed.
To this level.
But isn't that the same for heterosexuality?
Well, I
Yeah,
would say that
exactly.
heterosexuality is probably the majority as well. No,
Yeah, but we probably shouldn't
Yes.
normalize it to the
That's
extent that
the
we shame
point.
people who aren't heterosexual, right?
for sure, yeah, and I don't think that
And
we
same
should
thing with
shame
monogamy and
polygamous
non-monogamy.
people either.
Well, I got to tell you, as a
I
non-monogamous,
like this guy. He's open-minded, but he's so close. You almost got it there, Dr. Heem. You're so close. You can do
person, we get a little bit of flack, I have to say.
Yeah, I guess
It's
you could say you get more flack than like maybe the LGBTQ. I don't know, maybe it's
more
not-
than
Well,
monogamous.
I mean, people don't get. No, I mean, actually, a non-monogamous person does not get more flack than the LGBT community. Maybe among certain groups nowadays, yeah, but no, people have been killed for being LGBT. So no, it's not the same. Like, I was making a comparison to being trans, but again, it's only because of intersectionality that comparison is possible. It is. People who are trans or LGBT or any other minority are typically treated way worse than quote unquote non-monogamous people. Because if you're in power, non-monogamy is pretty standard. They just don't talk about it,
I'd say.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's comparable to biphobia in
or
a
at
way,
least don't make it public,
right?
because they want
So
to control those below them by making them feel locked into monogamy.
when non-monogamous people are looking around for relationships, not just people to fuck or whatever, but relationships, oftentimes they're this, things work out, and then the conversation on non-monogamy pops up, and there's this reflexive disgust, Now, if you are dating casually a
should be
person
brought
who's
up
revealed to
soon,
be non-monogamous,
soon as
and that's not your dig, that's totally fine, okay? But it goes beyond not having that preference, and goes more towards the idea that there's something wrong or subversive or harmful about being.
Because again, yeah, like what he's saying is, yeah, if your relationship, if two people are in a relationship but they're also able to have sex with or do whatever with anyone they want, but they still choose to be together, like that seems like a pretty good case for they're in love with each other.
Being non-monogamous, and that's what bothers me. Like, if you were dating around
and that
with a person
will happen. That will be the result of allowing this to happen.
was like, oh yeah, like I'm dating women right now, but I'm like 85% attracted to men or something. Like, I can understand you being a little cautious about entering that relationship.
Yeah, if you're a woman and this assuming male person is like 85% attracted to men but dating women at the moment, but you're looking for a long-term relationship, then yeah, you could be cautious, because that's not necessarily what they're looking for. That's why you talk about these things. That's what's so great about the internet and relationships nowadays, or at least the potential they could be. The problem is just capitalism makes it so awful and just atomized and difficult and commodified, and it
See,
just
like,
turns
I
it
think
into
I could
a terrible parody of itself.
be with someone who's non-monogamous, but I myself can't be non-monogamous.
Well, that was gonna be my.
Does that make
next-
sense?
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because I would think then that that's how you end up as part of a harem. If you're, or that's how you know, polygamy happens, which is different than polyamory, of having, many wives happen, because they're more okay with that. I wonder if she actually means that. Like, maybe she could. I don't know, but let's be honest, shoe0nhead, you have some pretty you like the aesthetic of of traditional, like, right wing guys, masculinity and all that stuff. You like that aesthetic. You don't like those people, but you literally went to the there is video of shoe0nhead, saying that she wanted to go to the MAGA march right before the January 6th, riot, the attempted coup, the terrorist attack that happened. She was going there to find a boyfriend. Obviously she was kidding, but yeah, she's attracted to that aesthetic. But I wonder how far that would actually go. I feel like, unfortunately, while that might actually be true, and there might be, if we allow non-monogamy and all this and everybody to exist, if we allow humanity to move past capitalism and hierarchy and come into its full potential, then yeah, she could probably be in a relationship that is. But then it's weird because it's not polyamory, because she would be dating a guy who would be dating multiple girls, including her, but she wouldn't be dating the other girls too. No, I feel like, I feel like you should be wary of that feeling. The I would be okay with dating somebody maybe who's non-monogamous, but I wouldn't be non-monogamous myself. I think you both have to be on the same page there.
Do you think it's irresponsible if you, let's say, sleep with someone who explicitly is into monogamous relationship?
Jack calling me
And
Shut the fuck up.
you know what I mean?
Wait, what?
I mean, as long as you tell them, right?
Is it irresponsible to sleep with somebody who's into specifically monogamous relationships? It's only irresponsible if you lie to them. Yeah, if you're honest from the beginning and they consent to it, and you like each other, yeah. I mean, I'm a non-monogamous person, but I've exclusively been in monogamous relationships because everybody I've wanted to date and has wanted to date me has been exclusive. Also, actually, that's not true. I've been cheated on before in a relationship, and I think the specific person that cheated on me, I've never cheated on anyone because I have principles. While I'm personally non-monogamous, these people aren't, so I wouldn't do that. But they cheated on me, and I was like, okay, but do you still like me? And she was like, yeah. Okay, whatever. Try not to do that again, I guess, was my reaction. But I think she actually didn't like me, and she was lying when she said that she still liked me and that she wanted me to break up with her because we broke up shortly thereafter. And the way it worked out, I think she was trying to get me to break up with her by cheating on me and admitting to it, which is kind of weird. If you're willing to do that, just break up with a person. That's a little.
The I'm into non-monogamy
wrong,
thing is
but
like
we
one
were
of the first
pretty
things that I
young at
message
the
people
time,
about on
so
Tinder.
it's
It's always very
possible.
forthcoming because you never want to bait people, right? I mean, the last thing
Yeah,
you want to do
don't
is
wanna bait people.
rope some
Don't
poor
lead people on.
monogamous damsel.
Well, that's what
to fall in love with you.
So like, yeah, I agree. That's
Wait,
Yeah,
if you-
It would be immoral to purposely do that and lie about, trying to be in a monogamous relationship until you sleep with them and then leaving them. Yes, that would be pretty immoral. But talking to them, letting them know ahead of time that you're non-monogamous, and then they saying that they are monogamous, and then leading to series of circumstances lead to you having a consensual sexual experience, that's totally fine. Especially if you end up in a monogamous relationship that lasts a while. That would be nice. And even if you don't, then just be cautious before you do that, because you should maybe, let them know. It is worth talking about. It depends on the circumstances, but there's a million an infinite number of variables that could be, that could change the context of the situation. But generally speaking, yeah, just be forthcoming and honest, and then whatever happens, happens.
Here's a question though. So, will you acknowledge though that like sex though is like unique in comparison to like going for a jog with somebody, doing something else, due to the fact that there is.
Yes, Dylan, we agree. Yes, sex is it's not the same as skee ball. It does lead to things, but you yourself said that you have had experience, and you know what? Those experiences where that person just got up and walked away kind of sucked, and you didn't like that, and that's I agree. Y'all should cuddle. I think that's pretty, kind of spoils the experience. However, if that's all that that person wanted, and they could find somebody else like that, that's fine. You know, those people are allowed to live too. You don't have to cuddle if you don't want to, but not wanting to cuddle is just a foreign concept to me. But also, you can cuddle non-romantically too, is in my opinion. You could have an entirely platonic sexual experience, and cuddle afterwards, and be cute without being romantically interested, which is kind of dangerous on my part, because that can fool people like Dylan. Although, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I wish I was bi, but while I am straight, they would be women, who think like Dylan. It can be confusing, but the reason it's confusing to people like that are because we live in a society where non-monogamy is just not even considered. It's just not. It's like it doesn't exist. It's like a foreign concept. It's it's alien. So it doesn't. So that's why he's so confused by it, because sex is a thing that he can only do with somebody that he loves, or at least only would like to do with somebody that he loves. And that's totally fine. That's perfectly acceptable. That's why we need to be consenting and informed, enthusiastic consent is so important, and that's why informed is so important. That's why we need to focus on educating ourselves and the population, and that's why the only reason that we haven't moved past capitalism is because of a lack of education, because all other so-called communist societies have never put enough focus on actually explaining, on actually, educating their population. They had to, develop themselves. They had to industrialize, and that's all they cared about. But then, of course, because they industrialized and had all power at the top, that became, I'm oversimplifying a lot, and people would argue with me. But yeah, no, I educate, informed, enthusiastic consent, and honesty, and you can have both monogamous and non-monogamous versions of this.
Distinct dopamine centers that you're hitting at that makes you feel feelings for
You
people.
come.
There's a difference between well, it does though. Those things can make you attached to
Yes,
people.
that is the
It's
difference
a lot more
between
likely that I
hanging out
feel
and having sex.
attached to someone
Generally,
romantically
you come.
by having sex with them
Not always,
than
though.
for me playing skee ball or watching a movie. And those feelings can be hurt in different ways. That is unique.
And as I was saying, yeah, it's perfectly valid. It's just but it doesn't mean that vaush is not valid also. They're both valid. That's the point.
In comparison to I ski bowled with somebody
Vaush
else.
and I,
Oh, that's so hard.
and everyone else who's on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends, because keep in mind, there are people in entire cultures where they will get offended if you do things with other men, if you're a girlfriend to a guy, even if it's not sex, right?
Yeah.
For instance, there have been
Religion,
entire
typically.
centuries in cultures where it was considered scandalous for a woman
Which
to
is why
hang out with a
we
guy
need
who
to
wasn't her
move
husband.
forward, because that stuff is awful. Reactionary. That's why reactionary thinking is bad. It leads to white supremacy and male, toxic masculinity. But typically only because men are physically stronger on this third dimensional level. So, but on intellectual debate, everybody can be the same, provided we all educate ourselves and have proper resources.
Cultures,
what
yes, but I'm talking about basic what your body does in reactions to two types
Well,
of
that's-
different events.
Well, it's
That's
true
a
that
little different than the distinctive cultures, right?
Right. Of course, sex does have distinct biochemical reactors associated with it, but our experiences are always informed culturally. When it comes to the biochemical stuff,
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
I mean, I've read the science on it. I have to agree, of course. Sex is unique in its ability to make the love hormone produce or whatever. But I know that anecdotally, because culture
I keep forgetting that I'm pausing, and so it's only been 16 minutes, but I've been recording for about an hour. So yeah, I'm pausing all these things. So yeah.
has a big influence, and so does context. That can really, really vary. I know for a fact I've had sex with people who I did not have particularly fond, romantic feelings towards, and I know that I've developed really deep bonds over going to Disneyland with people. So I think there's enough variety here where we have to.
Just because there is an actual, evolutionary, reaction that our body has to having sex that creates a bonding experience. That's what I was saying earlier, was that, yeah, that's good. Do that with more people. We should bond more. But it doesn't have to be romantic. It even can feel romantic for a little while and enjoy the feeling and ride it out, and then, realize that that's not what it was actually, and it was just fun, It's okay. It's part of experimenting. That's part of the human experience.
To acknowledge that the line we've drawn is, especially with what a strict line it is, is a
We just need to allow it and be consensual and informed.
fairly arbitrary one. Not that there's anything wrong with recognize, like, yeah, okay, well, there's probably some cultural bias influencing it.
In a
Yeah,
few
this
years,
is
I'm
such
gonna
a
be the
great
conservative.
thing.
Like,
You
yeah,
know, we have an arbitrary line, but there's nothing wrong with it being arbitrary. We just need to realize that it is arbitrary and that the line could be placed somewhere else, or we place it here. But if it is arbitrary, we realize that it's arbitrary and maybe think about it more, and maybe we could put the line somewhere else, or maybe leave it where it is. It's just, important that, culture is informing our thoughts a lot more than we realize, because we don't really think about what we think about very much. We don't think about our thoughts very much. We just have our thoughts and our gut feelings and go with them, and that's where reactionary thought comes from, and it's usually hatred and fear is what it leads to.
I'm monogamous. I don't
Which is why love is a choice.
believe people should have
Right?
paid time off to take care of their pets. No, that's ridiculous.
Oh, you can be.
Slowly.
You
Slowly.
can be.
Wait, what?
Like, yeah, okay, well, there's probably some cultural bias influencing it.
In a few years, I'm gonna be the conservative and be like, yeah, I'm monogamous. I don't believe people should have
Right?
paid time
Yeah,
off
right.
to take care of their pets. No, that's
Oh,
ridiculous.
you can be.
Slowly.
You
Slowly.
can be monogamous.
No.
See, they're joking, but Vaush is absolutely correct. Yeah, they're just not on his level. They're just not ready. He's just ahead of the curve. I feel you, bud. And yet I can't even get any viewers. Well, maybe one day you'll let me on and we can all talk and we can all be famous and friends instead of just ugh.
Look,
Gosh,
If you want,
I
I'm gonna be the next John
understand.
Doyle.
Okay, I understand everything that you're saying. The one issue I had with what you said on your like thing, you said that monogamy was like internalized Christianity.
okay, hold on. That was
Was that
okay,
just like you were mad or like?
okay, well, that was 90% me being mad, but I'm pretty
true.
sure that's also a misquote, okay? I'm pretty sure what I said
No.
is that the idea that sex is sacred comes from internalized Christianity, which in the West, that's largely where it derives from. Obviously not like forever, but I think that's what I said was
I
internalized
agree.
Christianity, which, to be fair, Christianity is the largest cultural producer of the idea that there's something sacred about sex.
What do you
in
think,
America.
Shu?
Yeah, Christianity and well, not even Christianity though. I mean, if we want to go worldwide, but Abrahamic faiths place sex as sacred, and they are the most powerful group of Christianity and Islam and all derivatives thereof do that. But where most of our sex as sacred ideas come from is Abrahamic values, Abrahamic religious values,
At least, right?
I think sex is
and
like
in the U.S. specifically Christianity,
sacred.
Because of your
It's pretty-
indoctrination within the Jesus Christ?
No, it's because it's
because of your indoctrination period, but probably Jesus Christ is somewhere in there. Yeah,
like cool.
You're Italian, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm Catholic.
Catholic. Yeah, so
There you go. Yo,
Mhm.
you guys, listen, you guys want to hear a funny story? My fiance used to go to a Catholic school, and she said she used to skip going out for recess because it's cold. I live in Canada. She used to skip going out for recess. She'd go to the fucking chapel and do the rosary fucking Hail Marys all lunch period long. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is the school you went.
Did she choose to do that? Was that her choice, or was she forced to do that? Also, you said she'd skip recess to do that during lunch. I wish I was on this panel so that I could talk.
It sounds like fucking torture. What the-
I believe what he's saying is 100% true. It's just what he said is kind of funny and not quite consistent.
What is this? Is it, so yeah,
Like, yeah, did she choose to do this? Was she forced? And
maybe that's where you're getting your internalized feelings about sex from.
Developing a
Right.
relationship with Christ is torture to you? Jesus Christ.
Have you,
What a
seen,
heathen.
have you seen my beard, bro? Come on.
Yeah, I went to a Catholic after school thing, and like I would never pay attention ever. Like my little mini Bible just had doodles over it. Like I drew Jesus with like a blunt in his mouth and like.
And you're gonna try to
sunglasses on.
tell Vosh that didn't impact your view on sex. Yeah, okay.
really.
My upbringing had nothing to do with how I view things.
Yeah, literally, that's what she's. Yeah, that's what you're all saying. But at least Vosh has the honesty to be like, upbringing does inform my life, and you know what? I've thought about it, and maybe my upbringing didn't actually give me the best values, and I'd like to think about them and perhaps change them. Maybe I think differently than I was brought up. It's literally that's all he's asking. That's all we're asking, guys. Come on. Ugh. Education and information is important. Ugh, think
Okay, I
about
didn't pay
things.
attention though. That's the thing.
Cope.
Like I was just like fucked
Yeah,
around.
but you were still in a church doodling on a Bible. Like, it's not, yeah, and sex is sacred to you. What a surprise. It's like, yeah. And sex is nice. It's not, you don't, it would be nice if safe sex was the equivalent of a handshake, but you know what? It's not. But guess what? Neither is sitting down and watching a movie with somebody. Like, you don't sit down and watch a movie with complete strangers. You'll handshake a complete stranger because it's something quick and easy to do, depending on the context. But you won't hug a complete stranger necessarily unless you're like me and, you were brought up that way. But, honestly, yeah, it's all culture. It's all culture, Yeah, so to act like your upbringing isn't impacted by your subconscious isn't impacted by your upbringing, yeah, it's total nonsense. Total nonsense.
You were telling me that you were drawing pictures of multiple different Jesuses, it wasn't the same one Jesus.
But
Yeah,
would
so-
Jesus himself not draw pictures of Jesus smoking a blunt?
He
that
wa-
not in his
He was
image?
looking down on me like, yo, base, like, I approve.
Yeah, hey,
That's the Jesus
Nice.
that I would like to
you drew me
agree with
handsome.
as
I
well.
like that.
Yeah.
But he would say it in Hebrew. I think he would speak Hebrew, right? That's probably what he would. Yeah.
Presumably.
People were fighting yesterday on Twitter about if Jesus was white or like Hebrew or whatever. Like the
I
fucking Nazis were like really
definitely
angry
would've
that like
been
It's obviously
whatever
people-
color-
people were like,
Jesus is obviously
this-
white older.
They're saying
we-
Aramaic in chat. They would speak
Aramaic,
Aramaic. Okay. Yeah.
No, Mandarin.
Sounds-
ancient
sounds
Hebrew.
fake.
Mandarin.
Yeah,
It's obvious.
definitely.
You need to read the about the author section.
You guys want to hear another funny Catholic shit? So when I moved to my parents moved me to a different town when I was in the 11th grade. Just as I was about to finish high school, they're like, "All right, pack it up, we're moving." And I moved to a new town. I had to
Damn,
make all
that
new
sucks.
friends. It was the worst thing ever.
Yeah, literally.
And
senior year
and they put
or
me in a
junior
Catholic
year.
school after I went to public school for my entire life. They're like, "You're going to a Catholic school now with a uniform and everything." I
your
literally
last
for the
year.
first semester
That
I used to just
sucks.
cry every single day in the bathroom and shit. Just so
Damn.
sad that they
Wow,
made me move.
go for you
Anyways,
for
so the religion.
doing
right,
that.
yeah,
I
just
don't
the
blame
fucking
him. Yeah, that
post the
sucks,
punchline.
dude. That sucks. Yeah, just like right as you're about to graduate, like your last year of high school, you have to make totally new friends, and you're going to a religious high school when you didn't used to, like like, oh my god, I didn't go to a religious high school, and if I had to go through that would be terrible. Yeah, and I'm the type of person who would cry in the bathroom, but I'm not big and tough like this guy either, so that would really suck. Oh man.
The punchline's coming. So we used to have religion class, and the fucking abortion issue came up, and I was just like, yeah, abortion, of course. Like, what's wrong with abortion? And literally everyone in the
Oh.
class turned and was like, what?
What?
And like it became this massive.
Oh
fucking
my God.
Literally like.
Oh my god, that would be me too. Yeah, just everybody just like, what? Just like, what? Like, yeah, it's just.
Other students that
Wait.
were in other
Oh my
classes were
God, that
talking
would be
about
so
how I
awful.
dared to stand up for
Hold on,
abortion.
wait.
I remember
Yeah,
when
and then
I
other,
remember
yeah,
I
literally,
was-
he's the abortion kid. Oh my god, that would suck, dude. That sucks. Yeah, I feel for you, Dr. Heem. I'm sorry.
School
to
was
hear
like a church building for a little bit of time because they didn't have it was like an academy that couldn't find other property, and so for a while my government teacher said we can't talk about abortion in class. It was part of the rules that we signed on to when we signed on to the church building. I'm pretty sure he was lying. He just didn't want to talk about it. Continue, I'm sorry.
What were you gonna say, Vosh?
that. Yeah, so his school wouldn't even let him talk about abortion at all. He was branded as the abortion kid, and Vosh is over here like, guys, I'm so far ahead of this shit. like, guys, you need to really get with the program. And I'm like that, and I don't even have any viewers, so yikes, life.
Oh, I
Alright.
was hearing a high pitched ringing that I'm pretty sure was
And
coming from
you
your mic.
actually
'cause I
are
could-
watching this are probably like your own crazy thing, but you know what? At least I might actually talk to you if you want, and I see it and reach out to it. Maybe I will. I will do my best to try to react to and respond to anybody who wants to talk to me.
hear it, and I heard it when only you and I had active mics on.
I'm sorry, bro.
Did anyone else hear a
shit's-
ringing?
Oh,
my
yeah.
mic shit
Yeah,
sucks.
but that's how he talks. Yeah.
No, I.
It's the dog whistle.
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
it's-
I thought there was
it's not a
something
big
wrong with
deal.
my
Sorry, guys.
microphone when I first
No,
did
it's
that.
no, it's fine.
glad
Yeah,
I
okay,
fuck you
all right.
there.
There was
Defended
something
ourselves
wrong.
against the monogamy heat. Just the reason we got into all that to begin with isn't because I have some seething hatred of monoganormies or whatever. It's just because I think that people default to a lot of intuitive answers when it comes to why they feel certain ways about things, and it frustrates me a little bit when some people have like answers that feel
Yeah.
like they're
Agreed. Reactionary, because they are gut react. Gut is right because it's got some brain cells in there and it's thinking, but most of the time it's easy to program, and it's programmed typically for self-defense, and the best way to self-defense is to fear and be aggressive towards something that is unknown, and that's why it leads to a lot of hate towards outside groups.
very much intuition based, because we have really strong cultural opinions on the subject, right? The idea that like monogamy is like the way people are supposed to be is an
There's nothing
incredibly
inherently wrong with intuitive thought, but it's subconscious and can be programmed. So, if it's programmed, like I said, if your subconscious is programmed for self-defense, you're going to be skeptical and weary and towards things that you don't know, which is why everybody here is reactionary and have like a gut feeling of disgust and defense against the idea of non-monogamy just because they've never given it enough thought. But, you know, if we had a society that was, you know, enlightened enough to realize that was not a big deal, it wouldn't be a big deal. And monogamy would be just as fine as non-monogamy. As it should
Deeply
be.
ingrained social standard in you know, in our culture, in pretty much every culture, honestly. So probably something worth you know, addressing, I think.
You're just another lefty that wants to enact sexual chaos and destroy this country.
Exactly. I was gonna get at that.
Unironically.
Also,
This
I think
fucking degeneracy over here.
I honestly think being more chill and laissez-faire about sex would introduce more sexual order. The chaos is when people lie and they're like, "Yeah, babe, I'm only gonna sleep with you." There's no way in the whole
true. Yeah,
entire
it
life.
would. That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's my whole point of two people who are in a relationship together and could have sex with anyone at any time, you know, provided it was consensual. What brings them together but love? A lot better than our current society.
Of our marriage that I will ever feel temptation to sleep with other people, because I'm under the impression that humans are biologically locked and not want to fuck everybody else.
We're
So yeah,
penguins.
I guess
Sorry,
reason.
not
my
humans.
opinion
You
is
know?
like I think it's better to share those like feelings in a relationship, because if you're in a relationship where one person wants to be monogamous and the other person doesn't, the best thing you can do is literally just either figure out a way to work through it or break off the relationship, because you two are not compatible, and it's better to do one of those two things
that's why
early
it's
on, because
important
if
to
you
bring it
don't,
up
it'll
first.
just blow up in your face, it'll get messy, it'll be hurtful. And yeah, I mean, I've been very clear about that. For example, like there's conversations.
Agreed, 100%.
Between, I remember me and Kat had a conversation. I don't think she cares if I share this. Where he was like, "Hey, if I wanted to go to Europe to study, would you stay with me?" And I was like, "Probably not. I don't do long distance stuff. Long distance stuff to me, it's just like I like to be physically present with the people I'm with, and I just can't do long distance. I've tried it before.
Based
It's not
and
smart.
forward thinking,
Can't
Hill.
do it.
All I'm gonna say is that if people in marriages or committed relationships were open and forthcoming every time they wanted to fuck somebody who wasn't their partner, that would be a lot of ended relationships, right? Because I'm pretty sure that's a very common feeling. Even if you never.
Speaking of partners, it looks like Dr. Haim was saying he loves him. I love you to his partner, which is nice. Yeah, if people were forthcoming and honest, and they reacted the way people do, then yeah, that's why. But if we realize that that's a completely normal thought, like, oh, I thought they were attractive. I actually, you know, with my relationships, I try to have a culture in our relationship of pointing out attractive people. I ask them who they think is hot a lot, so that they can point out who they think is attractive, so that it's okay for us both to find other people attractive, because it's a completely natural and normal thing. And it's okay to be in a relationship with somebody and see somebody else and think that they're hot. That's called being a human being. It doesn't mean you have to act on it. But then, you know, that's the first step to creating a culture of potentially having open relationships being a normal thing, which is a good thing.
Act on it. That is a very common feeling that people have, you know? And I guess, like, there's utility in learning how to work past those feelings in the same way that, like, sometimes even if you're in a romantically monogamous relationship, you might feel like, oh, my partner sucks, I want to be with somebody else, you know? But sometimes those feelings are fleeting, and you have to be good at kind of interpreting your own emotional state. But yeah, there's a lot of variety in how people handle stuff like that, I think. I do know that the expectation that people need to be monogamous is super destructive to monogamous people, though. Because holy shit, there are so many, like, fucking people out there who suffer needlessly in monogamous relationships. Because
I have a friend. I have friends who have in the past, multiple friends who've had issues where they've been in relationships and they just should have an open relationship, because all they do is cheat on each other and yell at each other and then come back together and then cheat on each other, and then this one cheats on that one because they cheated on them, and then they cheated on them, so they cheat on the other, and this, and back and forth. And it's like, just have an open relationship. And I've even said this to them, and they're like, no, I don't want it. And it's like, you're the weird one, okay? I'm not weird. You think I'm weird for thinking that?
You know,
that's
guilt
crazy.
Over, like, the need for them to do so.
Do you think this is just because you're not monogamous, so you're like kind of like, oh, everyone feels that way? It's kind of like because I'm bi, so I'm kind of like, I bet everyone's kind of bi in a way. Like, have you ever thought like that? Like,
totally possible.
Tons of people think that I'm bi because I say I wish I was bi, but trust me, and the fact that I've tried, and I have tried, and I'm not bi. Okay, I do not find anything. I can appreciate attractiveness in other masculine forms, but I am only attracted to feminine, and it's so limiting. Although I do feel like people are a lot more bi than people realize, and I wish that we were all bi deep down. That would be nice, but unfortunately.
But I have talked to a lot of monogamous people and watched a lot of media presumably made
God,
by
if
and
I
for
was
monogamous
bi,
people.
it would
It
be
seems
less
like it's pretty common
complicated.
feeling wise, right? But you're right though. I am absolutely like biased by my perspective, but it does feel like it happens more than we're comfortable talking about.
No, I get it.
Who in chat would agree with this, okay? If you're in a monogamous relationship, you have at some point in that relationship probably thought, oh my god, they're hot, I would fuck them. Like you wouldn't really, but like you've thought that, right? Like chat, I just want to see like hypers if you agree with that. Like
Everybody.
you're monogamous, but at some
Everybody's
point you've
thought-
had that feeling.
Seen an attractive person.
Okay,
I mean,
now
while being in a
follow up. Wait,
monogamous
follow up to that.
relationship.
Okay, now how many of you would be upset if your partner came to you and told them they had also had that feeling about another person? Probably a lot of you, right? Like there'd be something
And
like you'd
there
be
is
like, ugh.
definitely a non-zero amount of people that were just like, ugh. Yeah. It's called life.
Like you feel like kind of down about it. I don't know. That just seems like a common thing.
Anyway, I don't care about the Halloween candy.